Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our fourth webcast in our Building a Digital Government webcast series, Engaging with the Digital Citizen Customer Experience in the Public Sector. My name is Bianca Salentine from PwC Canada, and we're pleased to have you join us today. To start off, I'll go through the agenda as well as a little bit of housekeeping. So we have Justin Wortley, a partner from PwC Canada in Consulting and Deals, who will be speaking to how to engage with the digital citizen. After that, we have PwC Canada works with a variety of solution providers. And today, we're pleased to have Josh Kahn and Richard Kutrziak join us from Salesforce. Josh is the Senior Director from the Public Sector, and Richard is the Account Executive Public Sector for Canada. After they finish speaking, we'll move on to a moderated discussion and audience Q&A. So this is where we will address the questions that you have during the presentation. And we do recommend that if anything comes to mind, to please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your console and submit your question as it pops up in your head. And then we will get to that at the end of the presentation. But to start off, just so we understand where the audience is and their thinking, we just wanted to know, what industry do you think sets the mark for digital engagement? So please take a minute and read through this. So we have, I'll just read it out loud. We have industrial products, retail, healthcare, financial services, telecommunication services, utilities, and other. So we chose this because we took a selection from the Global Industry Classification Standard. So if you wouldn't mind just thinking which industry and letting us know. We haven't put public sector there, but we're hoping to have them soon. So we've had a few submit. Once again, it is, what industry do you think sets the mark? Who is the top for digital engagement? Great. So we'll be moving on to the poll, and I'll be passing it on to Justin.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bianca. Good afternoon, everyone. Reflecting on the results of the poll here, and I must admit, I'm not surprised. Bianca, you stole some of my thunder. I thought we were going to, have some objections that public sector wasn't listed as setting the benchmark, and there was certainly no purposeful omission with that. This was simply an industry perspective, and clearly, retail holds a little bit of a lead, followed very closely by financial services, which echoes the sentiment that we find as we've done surveys in the public sector as it relates to who's setting the mark for digital engagement. I must admit that the telco sector has come up a little bit higher than I anticipated, getting very closely aligned to financial services. I don't know whether that's a function of the convergence of what is now deemed as public sector, given you've got the likes of like Rogers and Bell buying sports teams. But clearly there's a move afoot as it relates to who the audience seems as or appears to be the benchmark for digital engagement. So moving on, and once again, good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to spend a few moments with you today to talk about what's trending in digital government, as well as take a little bit of a detour to look at the expectations that are being set across industry as it relates to customer experience, and hence the reason for the first poll question. So moving into the content, the PwC spent a significant amount of time in the marketplace looking at key areas that need to be addressed in order to not only build a digital government, but to enhance opportunities to engage through the digital channels. And while digital is often synonymous with technology, really what underpins a successful digital government transformation is trust. And it's this trust concept that equally spans both public and private sector. So before we dive right into the 7 trends that we've identified, like I said, I think it's important that we spend a little bit of time looking at the perspectives and the state of the customer experience. Today, disruptive forces are rapidly reshaping the world. We have a number of inescapable world trends that are acting together that's driving change, changing customer and citizen expectation. We're in a world where, becoming more and more obvious, we're living in a world of resource scarcity and climate change. We're seeing rapid and significant shifts in global economic power to emerging nations, rapidly accelerating urbanization, which drives different digital needs. Exciting technological advances. I don't think anybody would say that the new and emerging entrants into the marketplace and how they're changing customer expectations is anything other than thrilling. And finally, noted on the slide here, we're going through a pretty significant demographic shift. In PwC's new Digital Tipping Point report, we determined that by 2020, the majority of citizens, customers, and by extension our workforce will be digital clients. And I would go as far as to saying that they're not going to expect easy-to-use technology. Frankly, they're going to demand it. And as it relates to the public sector, we'll find that organizations are going to be selected out of the ecosystem just based on the experience that they set with their customers. So organizations must take action now to prepare for these disruptive opportunities, as well as prepare to leverage the new and emerging technology platforms that exist to support them. Cloud computing and platform computing enables organizations to free themselves from the traditional constraints of legacy IT and to participate more freely in product and service ecosystems and innovative solution development. A little bit later, we'll hear how one such platform, Salesforce, is being leveraged to drive innovation in both the public and the private sector. Disruptors these days skillfully use digital technologies to shift customer expectations and redefine working models. Customers today look for organizations that have embedded a customer's digital experience into their business model versus simply creating a digital extension of their traditional brand. And as such, are able to drive innovation across a number of evolutionary steps, all of which are singularly focused on customer value. Threatened, or frankly rapidly becoming extinct organizations share some interesting common characteristics. They're hierarchical and structured, heavily invested in capital infrastructure, sequential and linear in their engagement with their clients or customers, and driven by instinct and episodic transactional interactions. Contrast that against the disruptive organizations that we'll talk about a little bit later, where they have a diametrically opposed approach. They're organic, heavily invested in customer centricity, incremental and iterative in their approach. They're driven by data and insight. They ensure that their customers are participatory and engaged in the way they interact with their customers and evolve their models. At PwC, we like to refer to this new paradigm as an experience economy. Today's customers are time and budget constrained and live in a world that is completely media saturated. Private organizations are rapidly realizing that traditional approaches to customer engagement are continuing to yield smaller and smaller returns. So how does an organization earn a customer's trust and loyalty in today's experience economy? They focus relentlessly on what they do for and far less on what they say to today's customers. Today's customers want a connected experience. They compare experiences across industries. They think, if I can do that with Amazon, why can't I do it with you? They want to participate. Consumers expect to be able to find reviews and find feedback, have their reviews taken into account, and collaborate with their favorite brands. Leading organizations also seek to add value to the customer experience by connecting their customers with communities of interest or even adjacent industries to drive a richer, more complete customer experience, not to their bottom line benefit. Interestingly, 90% of consumers trust a friend that have used a product versus only 25% that trust a paid message. Consumers today can also make much smarter decisions. They're better informed than ever, which means they can make decisions that lead to better, very personal outcomes. And last but not least, they bring an innovation appetite. The rapid evolution of personal technology, such as phones and wearables, has created a consumer that thirsts for innovative new products and services. And perhaps the best example of that, and I know it's one that's talked to very, very frequently, is our friends at Uber. Consider for a moment that traditional taxi or limo services were bottlenecked. They provided bottlenecked access to customers through an antiquated dispatch system. There were limited service choices. Cabs are often dirty, uncomfortable, cash-driven, when the whole purpose of taking a cab is for expedience and convenience. So Uber's approach was radically different. It included in their experience a real-time self-dispatching and updates, which is critical. You were able to select your own level of service, pay automatically, and a transparent mutual rating system and feedback loop. This drove a very, very different experience. Consider near real-time access, comfortable rides, and most importantly, a personalized value equation. And it's worth pausing to reflect for a moment how well the Uber experience sits against the needs of the four customer need categories that I noted earlier. And it's not just Uber, and Uber's the one that's trotted out the most, but I'll just throw a couple of brands out there for comparative purposes. Blockbuster versus Netflix, BlackBerry versus Apple, and frankly, retailers versus Amazon. So very, very often we're finding that the technological underpinnings are able to craft a consumer experience that is frankly causing some significant disruption in the private sector. So with that context, let's proceed to the next poll. And for the audience here, I'd ask you to take for a moment, is your organization developing a digital transformation strategy? So the choices you have in front of us are, yes, indeed, we've completed our strategy. We have a project that is currently underway. We're targeting to do so in the next 12 months. We will, but likely more than a year out. And at this time, we have no plans. So I just ask the audience to chime in with their responses. Now, we have to take a little bit of a point-in-time snapshot of the question because for a lot of organizations, the strategy is constant and evolving. But in order to provide some context, we opted not to put continuous strategy. Bianca, how are we doing on the responses?
Great.
Fantastic. Well, very interestingly, almost half of the participants have a project underway, which is fantastic, and frankly, in keeping what we're seeing in the public sector, both in Canada and across the world. No plans at this time is a little bit surprising, but not unusual in terms of the visibility of these strategies where they sit in organizations. And then I guess completed the strategy at 3% just echoes my earlier comments that strategies are often continual and evolving. So let's pivot for a moment and move on to the trends that we're seeing as organizations strive towards a digital government. So reflecting on the comments I made from private industry, similarly, digital government is about giving citizens the public sector they want. It's giving them the choice. And those expectations clearly are being shaped and influenced by their experiences across industry and the spectrum. So becoming a truly digital government will help meet those expectations. A global scan of leading citizen-centric practices reveals that governments in Canada can do more by harnessing the right technology to build trust to transform themselves. So we're going to take a closer look at the 7 digital trends that will help governments get ahead. So first, no pun intended, think digital first. Adopting a digital-first mindset lies at the heart of faster, better service delivery. Citizens want a consolidated access across agencies and organizations. They want digitally available permits and information, as well as applications and approvals. They want it mobile, and they want it now. They want to use their mobile devices to access services on the go, from application submission. Mobile government has an opportunity to provide localized services that can add additional values to users, such as sending road conditions or updates on automated dispatching, essentially borrowing the Uber concept. There's continued need to enhance omni-channel engagement. This is a concept that has been out in the customer experience world for some time, but nobody seems to have it completely perfect. By enhancing multi-channel capabilities, governments can provide services through various channels, including mobile, website, and branches, and even through to today's more emerging technology such as wearables or the Internet of Things in terms of sensor technology, to allow for response and return and response capabilities. And the key thing here is applications that are started on one channel should be seamlessly transitioned to another. The fourth digital trend we're finding is that there is a willingness for citizens to share their tombstone data across ministries and at levels of government. Governments can use this customer data to proactively provide the right services to citizens when and how they need them. Citizens are also demanding that to stay informed. They want to know the status of their applications and permits. They want access to that information, increasing transparency and improving service delivery. By extension, it also reduces calls and visits from the citizens and lowering cost of service. Underpinning all of this is cybersecurity, the base component of trust. Governments have critical information in their systems that will only increase in the digital world. Cyber attacks are increasing, and protecting data and reassuring citizens that their data is secure is absolutely critical. All of this drives rapid efficiency. To give citizens the digital and quality services they're looking for, operational excellence and efficiency are key, supported by the right technological tools. With these 7 trends in mind, I would like to reintroduce Josh Kahn from Salesforce. Josh will provide you an overview of the Salesforce platform and how these trends are supported by their product. Supporting Josh is Richard, who will give us some highlights into 2 actual case studies of the application of the Salesforce product to bring these trends to life. So Josh?
Hey, thanks, Justin. As Justin mentioned, this is Josh Kahn, and with me is Richard Katrusiak. We're both from Salesforce. And today we are going to give you a brief introduction to Salesforce. We are going to share our perspective on some industry drivers and trends, and you'll see that they align pretty well with the thoughts that Justin just shared. And then we're going to finish with an overview of our solutions and some key customer stories. But to start, we also have a poll question, and specifically we'd like to know, how familiar are you with cloud computing? Very familiar? Somewhat familiar? A little, or not at all? Again, please take a moment and respond. How familiar are you with cloud computing? And as you respond, I'm conscious of the fact that there's probably a lot of definitions of cloud computing out there, and we'll certainly talk about that during our presentation. But please take a moment and submit your response. How are those poll responses looking? Awesome. Okay. So let's take a look. So very familiar is 33, somewhat 41, 11. Okay. Perfect. So let me take a moment and just address that real quickly, just to give us a common framework. When we talk about cloud computing, the simplest way I like to describe it is as a utility. So just like when we want to get water or electricity, we don't go out and build our own power plant, or we don't go out and build a dam or some other reservoir. We plug into a local utility, and we let them manage all the cost and complexity of generating electricity and delivering it to our place of residence or our place of work, and we just plug into it when we need it, and we use it as much as we need, and we pay for what we need. So that's the same concept as cloud computing, right? All of that cost, all that complexity is handled by the cloud service provider, and you just plug into it when you need it, and you use what you need, you pay for what you need, and that's how you get your cloud computing services. So hopefully that definition will help set the framework for the rest of our discussions. So the next thing I want to do is start off with a brief video. Let it roll.
I think it's fair to say that government interaction in New South Wales has been a bit scattered historically. As a customer, if you wanted to interact with New South Wales government, you couldn't always do that at convenient times to you. But also, it was the level of service you were going to get was fairly inconsistent. So we started this journey by going out to customers and saying, what do you want from New South Wales government? We learnt very quickly that we needed to expand our hours of operation, and we needed to have a digital portal that was simple and easy to use.
We need to be able to move fast and to innovate.
But also making sure that we're building technologies that support our staff to deliver an ultimate customer experience.
The Salesforce One platform and its omni-channel development toolkit allows us to quickly innovate and to evolve the customer experience.
For example, if somebody's ringing to apply for a birth certificate, they ascertain that fairly quickly in the call. Into Salesforce, they'll write birth certificate application, and then bang, and it walks them through the steps that they need to go through.
We're getting great efficiencies through all our channels.
So when you ring in to the Service New South Wales call centre, you'll be answered by a human. No IVR, no messages, no press 1 for this or press 2 for that. You get straight through to somebody.
The emergence of social and mobile technology means our customers are already connected, and we need to find ways to connect with them in a space they're already comfortable and familiar with.
Salesforce is helping us through that process, particularly with our web forms. Whether you're using an iPad, an iPhone, or you're on a PC or a Mac, you can go straight through the website. 2 clicks, very easy, simple process.
So it's really about bringing together those transactions to make Service New South Wales the single face for government.
To think that we could be sitting here today, and I'm telling you within 7 months we've got over 850 transactions available across our 3 channels, and to think that we've maintained a 99% customer satisfaction is extremely incredible.
Well, customer satisfaction is our most important statistic. It's a driver behind everything we do, and it's the inspiration for what we do.
The thing about this job is you're allowed to think outside the box, and to be in government and working in environments such as this, you really can deliver amazing things.
Okay, so hey, so New South Wales, they are one of the most populated states in Australia, and obviously that includes Sydney and Canberra. And what they did was they realized they needed to improve customer service, and you just saw an amazing video about how they embarked on their journey and some of the great success they've had. So I thought I'd use that video as a way to preface Salesforce and answer the question, who is Salesforce, and why should we be talking to them about government digital transformation? So let me jump into that topic. So first of all, Salesforce is an enterprise cloud computing pioneer. Back in 1999, we were one of the first companies to deliver commercial cloud services, basically that utility computing that I was talking about earlier. Right, and as part of that, we handle all that complexity. You don't have to worry about hardware or software. You have instant scalability. And what's really important is that we provide automatic upgrades for all of our customers. And the way we do it is through this thing called the metadata platform, and I'll maybe talk about that a little bit more later. But the key benefit is that everyone is on the same release. We have 3 releases a year. Every one of our customers automatically get upgraded to that release. There's no expensive upgrades. My prior company that I worked with, we sold applications, and some of our customers, they were getting bids for $100 million plus upgrades just to get to the next release. And that's not the cloud computing model, right? So that's one key to cloud computing, is you must be able to deliver those automatic updates. The other key to cloud computing really is fast deployments, right? It should be a matter of weeks and months, not months and years. You heard in the video, for example, that in New South Wales, in just I think 7 months, they had over 150 transactions live, not only on their website, but on mobile as well, because again, web and mobile all come together on the cloud. So who's Salesforce? We're an enterprise computing company, and we have a government success platform. And again, we'll drill into that more later, but what it basically means is that we deliver pre-built applications that are focused on helping you service and support your customers. We also deliver a platform that allows you to build your own applications, or if needed, enhance ours. And then we also have an app exchange, which allows you to leverage an ecosystem of over 1,000 partner apps. Think about it like the App Store from Apple, where you just kind of download the apps you need into your environment. And all of these applications, all these services out of the box come with social, mobile, and analytics embedded. It all works. There's not a separate project to do analytics. There's not a separate project to do mobile. So again, it's an enterprise cloud computing company. We deliver our government success platform. And last but not least, we're very, very proud of our innovation. We've been consistently recognized for innovation by companies like Forbes, Gartner, Forrester, and others. And one element that we're especially proud of is our 1-1-1 philanthropy model, which basically means that we give 1% of our time in the form of employee-paid volunteer hours back to the community. We give 1% of our product in the form of free or discounted product prices to nonprofits. And we give 1% of our equity through grants and educations, again, back to universities, back to programs promoting science and technologies and other key issues. So enterprise cloud computing company that delivers the government success platform with a very long legacy of innovation. So that's who Salesforce is. Now I want to talk a little bit about industry drivers and build a little bit on Justin's comments. So my first comment is that we obviously live in a very connected world, right? Today more than ever, people, things are connected. The cloud has enabled amazing innovations that have boosted engagement, the innovation and productivity of all of us. For example, parking spaces in San Francisco are now connected to drivers. So if you're looking for a parking space, you can quickly find those that are available. Cars are connected with dealerships so that they can report on maintenance or other usage issues. We have watches that are connected with healthcare providers. We've got toothbrushes that are connected to dentists. So it's a very, very connected world that we live in. And behind all these connections, behind all these connected devices, is data, a whole massive amount of data. Data about driving habits, data about machine usage or fashion trends or social media. In fact, 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 12 months. Just think about that. 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 12 months. So data is just exploding. And then we have these disruptors, and Justin mentioned Airbnb already, but these disruptors have emerged, and they're leveraging this data, and they're leveraging these new technologies like cloud and social and mobile to fundamentally transform business models for certain business areas. And by doing that, they're improving the connection to their customers, and they're resetting customer expectations. Now, Justin already talked about Uber and how they've transformed the transportation experience, but I just wanted to emphasize that at the end of the day, what they really did was they transformed their customer experience, and they've leveraged all that data and all those technologies to better connect to their customers to better deliver experience. And an interesting side note is companies like Uber and Lyft, they often know more about traffic flow or traffic pattern in major cities than the local transportation leaders, only because they have access to all that data, right? The data from their drivers and where they're picking up and where they're dropping off, and the data from where their customers are asking to be picked up. So Uber is a great example. Airbnb is another great example. Right, very similar, but they focused on the hotel industry and transforming the hotel industry. They utilize cloud and mobile to connect people with available spaces. Similar to Uber, they use a rating system to improve the quality of their service. Similar to Uber, they connect with their customers, and what they're really doing is they're forcing hotels to rethink their business model. And they're, in some cases, they're forcing cities to readjust their tax models, right? Because more and more people seeking hotel rooms are shifting to Airbnb, and that's a totally different tax model. But what it's ultimately doing, or what Airbnb is ultimately doing, is they're improving the utilization of space, and that's good for all of us as we move more and more into a resource-constrained world, both from energy and resource consumption. So those are some disruptors, and there's others like Khan Academy and Nest and others. But the point I want to talk about is that this brings up an issue, right? And the issue is that most governments out there, not all, but most governments out there are still disconnected from their customers. In general, governments lag behind the private sector in terms of utilizing some of these new technologies. And the problem is that the citizens' expectations are being set by those private sector companies. As a citizen, you expect to be able to Google and find an answer or download an app because there's an app to solve that problem. And unfortunately, with most government agencies, most government organizations, they still have a form for that, right? So in private sector, there's an app for that. In the government, there's a form for that. And what this is doing is creating this massive gap, right? This massive gap between governments and their customers. And at a macro level, what that means is there's an expectation gap. Right, 70% of citizens are generally dissatisfied with government based on a Pew Research study. At the program level, we have a service gap. So, for example, there's a 64% approval rate for U.S. federal government service. So the federal government agencies delivering customer service to their end users have a 64% approval rate, which is an 8-year low based on a U.S. Federal Customer Experience Index. And last but not least, there's a technology, at the technology level, there's an innovation gap, right? Roughly 80% of U.S. government IT spend is consumed just by keeping the lights on, right? By operating and maintaining their current legacy systems, leaving very, very little funding for innovation. So what's the solution, right? The solution, it seems pretty obvious, right? You need to become a connected government. You need to leverage technologies like cloud and mobile and social. You need to plug into these massive amounts of available data, and you need to do all that to enable yourself to improve customer service. So our suggestion is what you need to do is consider all of your stakeholders, all your connections, your employees, your partners, businesses, programs, etc. And what you need to do is you need to find ways to connect with them when, where, and how they want to connect. And the key to all this is that you need to focus on fast, agile, iterative progress. Right? So we're not talking about a 10-year development project. Those times are gone. Right? What you need to focus on is a series of 6 to 10-week sprints where you pick one set of constituents, you pick one problem, you focus on it, and you very, very quickly deliver a minimal viable product that provides value and allows you to get feedback and to continue to improve it over time. So that's our position. You need to become a connected government. And of course, there are many, many government organizations out there using our enabling technology to perform that digital transformation. And we call this the Government Success Platform. It's basically the cloud technologies that enable governments to connect with their customers. And I know this is a very busy slide, but it contains a lot of those things I already mentioned up front. Right? It's that metadata platform that enables those 3 seamless upgrades a year. It's a set of pre-built applications focused on helping you connect with your customers and deliver better customer service. It's a platform that allows you to build your own apps or extend our apps. And it's that app exchange that allows you to leverage all those partner apps, but also allows you to share your own apps. And I want to tell a couple of stories real quick. So U.S. Department of Agriculture has several programs that have built out some mission apps, and they're leveraging the app exchange to share those apps throughout USDA and components of those apps so that they can promote reuse and improve time to value. So it's not only about quickly developing your own apps, it's about reusing what your peers have done. So USDA is a great success story. Taking a step further is GSA, or the General Services Administration. Not only have they set up their own app exchange to share internally, but they've set up through GSA Labs an external app exchange. And with that, they are sharing what they've done to other government entities, both federal and state and local, and they're working with other federal agencies to have them share their apps so that we can create an ecosystem of government-to-government peer sharing. And the key to all this is that they're using a platform that enables this fast, agile, iterative progress required to connect with all your customers. Because if you don't have that, you're not going to have these quick successes. And if you don't have these quick successes, you won't gain the momentum you need, and you won't have anything to share. So that's the Government Success Platform. And this next slide really just shows really a subset of some of the use cases that our customers have deployed leveraging this platform, and includes a whole variety of solutions, everything from mobile inspections, to call centers, to case management, to citizen outreach. We have stakeholder communities, whether it's an employee community or a partner community, or even a customer community. And we allow you to bring them together and collaborate and share information. Right? And across all of that, we of course have analytics, right? Analytics that allow you to consume all this data and use it to improve the customer experience, but also improve the outcomes, the mission delivery and the programs. So that's the Government Success Platform. And we believe that there's all sorts of advantages to Salesforce, but I'm going to focus on one of them because I think it's the most important, and that's customer success. Right? We at Salesforce are 100% focused on customer success. It's part of our business model, right? We're a cloud service provider. We're a subscription model. If at any point you aren't getting value or aren't happy with your subscription, you just stop, right? So we are incented to make sure every day that you're happy with the value you're receiving. As a matter of fact, we have an entire organization called Customers for Life, or CFL. And that organization, a very large organization, has the sole mission of waking up every day and making sure that our customers are successful and that our customers are getting value out of the apps that they deployed. And I think that's a great lead into the next slide, because Richard's going to take you through a couple examples of those customer stories and share with you a little bit about how we've had success in Canada. Richard?
That's great. Thanks very much, Josh. So wanted to talk about, first and foremost, the region of Peel. Region of Peel is a highly populated area in southern Ontario you may be familiar with, and they were looking for a case management solution to manage the social housing process that is going on there. They initially thought it was going to be a traditional on-premise approach, but we're looking at their digital-first strategy. It resulted in selecting Salesforce due to the end-user experience, the self-service capabilities, the mobile capabilities, and the seamless upgrades that Josh talked about. This project also is going to be working on the same data model as 10 other projects in the region of Peel, including CRM, asset management, inspections already deployed on Salesforce. So they took a different approach to it as well. Rather than taking an existing process and trying to put people through that process, they looked more at the service design, and they wanted to have a citizen-first perspective, so changing the processes to make it easier for the citizens. So what they ended up deploying is, the core modules include intake and eligibility for social housing, MLS listing service for citizens based on eligibility, service provider community to list properties to eligible citizens, asset management of properties, inspection of assets, payments, and the whole CRM process to manage the housing receipt, with the end goal of having them move through the need for social housing. So within that comes the complex case management. So we're tracking and managing issues arriving between the citizens, the stakeholders, the region, service providers as well. And what we've enabled with one of our communities product is the ability for both citizens and service providers to have ongoing communications and collaboration for scheduled maintenance, service disruptions, and notifications of things like elevator repair. So, these core modules provide a complete digital mobile experience for all parties, both the operators and also the residents. The key highlights include, project kicking off in November with Phase 1 live at the end of May, Phase 2 at the end of July, and the project complete for September, 10 months end to end. So completely revolutionary when we take a look at the typical projects that are going on currently. The City Council in early 26 mandated a solution for homelessness, and it was added as a module and set to go live at the end of May. So social housing is one of 13 core social and health services provided by the region, and the plans to digitize the remaining 12 services using the same portal on Salesforce, providing as seamless as possible interaction with the region. And all components, including the contact center, work on one data model, which enables a complete 360 view of the client. And they took another interesting approach too, as they went through the 9 unique steps in the service process. The region has an automatic rank us after each one of these unique steps completes. So the immediate feedback allows them to iterate and enhance the experience versus the static services today, where there's no feedback, or and they intend to constantly iterate to make the interactions as seamless as possible and as satisfying as possible for the citizens. If you can flip to the next slide, please, Josh. We've got another example as well. It's on the other side of the country with British Columbia and the Ministry of Justice. They're looking at online dispute resolution, enabling some tribunal transformation. They looked at, in 2009, this is going back some time, so you can see the processes outside of the technology that are necessary as well. They looked at an evaluation in their small claims process, and this is how it started. They realized they needed a simpler process. The disparate schedules impeded real-time interactions, and represented individuals are less likely to settle. So, throughout the process, they went through and did some online dispute resolution projects. They had some legislative changes in 2012 with the Civil Resolution Tribunal Act was passed. And they launched a project that I've been working on since 2013, and they're looking at some strategic outcomes. So we all know that going to court can be costly. Having a dispute resolution can be costly as well. And how do we do that as quickly as possible? So how do we prevent the disputes, and how do we get a speedy resolution of these disputes? How do we increase user satisfaction with the service experience and maximize value and money for the taxpayers and users? And also, trying to increase the capacity of the justice sector to support public safety, justice, and environmental protection objectives. So they took a look at the technology that was out there. They know that they wanted to build a service design type of solution that was focused on the citizen service experience, and they evaluated 16 different solutions. And some of the considerations for the platform were procurement simplicity, government standards alignment, native multi-tenancy, external integration, native customization capabilities, the modern technology alignment, solution maturity, and suitability for this specific transformation needs. And we're talking about 27 different tribunals that we're transforming across British Columbia. So when we take a look at what they're delivering, so the dispute resolution comprises a number of steps, and there's the awareness, the information, and then we get in through the actual facilitate, adjudicate, and post-support. So they created two different systems based on Salesforce. One is the Solution Explorer, and it's a question-answer action type of framework solution. It delivers expert guidance and support to the non-expert users, handles needs by providing a just-in-time information, helping them understand their situation and take effective self-service action, and if necessary, come to the organization or the tribunal prepared. So this was a long project that they worked with subject matter experts to understand the needs in the service domain, and end up deploying it in one of our solution areas, and helping people guide them through the process and to get to the right place in a very efficient manner. And once they go through the Solution Explorer to determine if they need to be going down a certain path, they get to this dispute resolution suite, which has two different facing portals. There's the citizen-facing portal where we put the information in, and then there's the internal case management. So the citizen-facing portal takes them all the way through the intake, the consent, the contact information, and issue information, enables them to make payments, and enables them to automatically generate the paperwork and the packages to all interested parties in that. And it goes through, and the whole process marries the Solution Explorer with the dispute resolution process, taking that information that we used in the expert system at the front end, bringing it into the case management process throughout that, and going through and trying to negotiate and facilitate, and if necessary, adjudicate, going through a complex case management process. So, when we take a look at what they've been able to do, they're using 3-week sprints, using a very agile platform with Salesforce, and they're looking at, they have built this out on 2 tribunals right now, and they're looking at reusing it in other tribunals, and in this rapidly changing technology landscape. So there we have a couple of different examples of how we can use Salesforce for non-traditional means in a government setting in a very quick and cost-effective manner. And I think I'm handing back over to Justin.
Hey, thank you, Richard. Justin?
Fantastic. Well, thank you to Josh and Richard for that overview and practical application of Salesforce to the digital trends that we're seeing in the government. At this point, I'd like to open it up for a little bit of Q&A. Just as a reminder to the participants to submit your questions through the Q&A function on the console on your screen in front of you. To kick it off, we have the first question in here, and Josh, this is for you. From your experience, what is driving digital transformation leveraging your platform?
So it's a great question. I think I'd have to say it's really driven by the programs and missions and their need to innovate. Right? They had this dramatic need to improve their customer experience. They're getting this feedback either explicitly or implicitly. And while they've tried to work with the IT org in the past, the IT organizations are often find themselves with their hands tied. Right? Their budget is consumed by the operations and maintenance of their legacy systems, and the programs are often left out there to fend for themselves. So what many have done is that they've discovered that with Salesforce, they can enable themselves to deliver those fast, low-cost, innovative solutions, right? And again, in weeks and months versus months and years. And then they work with the IT org a little bit after the fact. And the IT org can provide that governance and help them with things like enterprise architecture to enable the reuse across the organization and overall improve time of value. But I think the real key is just the need to innovate, driven by customer demand and the program and mission. They just have to find a way to do it, and many of them have turned to cloud service providers like Salesforce to do that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Josh. Another question coming in across the forum is a request to define digital engagement. That's actually not that is any one question better than another, but that is a very interesting question because there's some significant debate as to the kind of the scope and the boundary of digital engagement. I'll give you a personal observation. The challenge with answering the question is it's two somewhat disparate concepts. The concept of digital, and in itself, is you can't get your head wrapped around it in terms of a technology-enabled experience. However, the engagement part of it is very personal. So what may be engaging to one individual may not be to another. So each of us kind of apply our own kind of value proposition to the interactions that we have with organizations. So if I had to pose a personal response to the question, I think it's a balance of technology with the personal touch that creates a very personal experiential outcome. And again, it's based on an individual's perception and what they deem valuable, and all that is underpinned by trust. So when individuals have interactions with one another, we see facial expressions, we can connect, and that is disconnected in our digital world. That said, there's a significant amount of immediacy that can happen, both positive and negative. So, and I think it's a question that's going to be debated for some time because again, you've got somewhat different perspectives as it relates to a technology aspect to the question and a very personal interpretation of the value of the interaction. Another question that has come in, and it's Josh. This one is certainly for you as well. It's a question as it relates to platform integration within ERP. Can you give us some highlights as to how the Salesforce platform would coexist with some of the legacy infrastructure that I talked about earlier? So, Josh.
Sure. Well, let me first start with the definition. Enterprise resource planning, ERP, right? It's your classic HR and financials and supply chain management applications. And what we found is that many of our customers have done a good job of implementing their ERPs, and the ERPs do a great job of tracking and managing their transactions. The problem they have is that their business also requires a system of engagement, if you will, that leverages that data for the benefit of the internal employees or our customers or partners. And that's where many of our customers struggle, right? Because the ERPs really weren't designed for that. They were designed to track and manage transactions for the most part. So what we found is that through the use of our APIs, which is application programming interfaces, it's a way to connect to any legacy data system or spreadsheet or any other source of data. Through our APIs, our customers are able to quickly pull in the reference data they need to facilitate that system of engagement and provide that experience that either their employees or their customers or partners need to deliver that customer service that we were talking about. So the integration is really key because there's some source data and transactions that really need to be surfaced in order for an organization to truly benefit from a system of engagement to improve customer service. Did that answer your question?
I'll assume it will, unless the individual who posted the question wants to post a follow-up. Again, just as a reminder, just to use the Q&A function at the bottom of the console to add additional questions. Additional question that's coming in. Actually, I'm going to have to open my window a little bit. This one is it's a little bit multifaceted. So it says in the New South Wales example, there is still human intervention. Is there an opportunity for the technology to be so human-like in nature that it cannot be distinguished that we are moving back to the technology backed by personnel? So Josh, given this is a New South Wales question, I will hand this one over to you.
Sure. Interesting question. I know that the video definitely highlighted the importance of the human interaction, but I think what wasn't highlighted was things like deflection, right? By using some of these technologies, what you're able to do is quickly answer folks' questions or resolve their issues in more of a self-service framework, right? So the technology that enables that is improving all the time, right? We have all sorts of engines that take some basic metadata and help provide likely answers or responses. We have a knowledge base. If you have a question, there's a search of previous similar questions and related answers, and you very quickly can, in a self-service format, get your answer. So if that's what you're asking for, there's definitely technology that's improving all the time that makes more and more of this self-service. I think in the video they were highlighting the importance that some of their interactions they definitely wanted to be on the phone in person, and we facilitated that.
Great, thanks, Josh. Another question that's coming from the audience as it relates to limitations, and specifically, what is limiting the Canadian government to be digital ready? So, Josh, I might propose that this is probably a question for both you and I. From a non-technology perspective, I would suggest that one of the current limitations is the need for a cohesive digital strategy at both the federal, provincial, and the federal level. As we could tell by our polling question, coincidentally at the beginning, there's a varying degree of maturity as it relates to the evolution of a digital strategy. It certainly doesn't help with the speed of technological change that's coming out as well. But certainly, as you've seen today in terms of the case studies, there are organizations within the public sector in Canada that are rapidly experimenting with these technologies to be able to increase their ability to provide degrees of digital engagement. Josh and/or Richard, do you have anything to add?
Richard, do you want to jump in there?
Well, I think there's a lack of awareness that's out there right now in terms of a lot of the digital strategy that's going on, and things like this help to let other people know what's going on in other jurisdictions. I continually am evangelizing as much as I can that's out there, but having a community to understand and learn from each other, I think it's starting. I think that people are putting their toe in the water and they're getting there, and perhaps the Canadian public sector is not as quick to move as the U.S. public sector, but what we're finding is making people move a little bit faster is we're being asked to do more with less continually, and the citizens are looking for for better service, and looking for more service, looking for faster service, or looking for it on their mobile devices. And really what's driving it is with the legacy systems that are there, it's next to impossible to provide those. So finding and landing on the right partners to do that with PwC, and hopefully with Salesforce's technology back end, we can help you to find those solutions and move forward.
Okay. Just looking at the polling questions at the moment. I believe we have covered most of the questions. There's just one here that, as it relates to the question is, and this may need some additional commentary from the person posing the question. So if you could submit it through the Q&A console. But the question to Josh is, how are the cloud platforms facilitating the regulatory and ethical data analytics strategic frameworks? So I admit I'm not familiar with the data analytical strategic frameworks. Josh, is this concept familiar to you that you can suggest an answer, or is this something that we may need to follow up with after the webcast?
Yeah, no, it's a very, very complex question. I think it probably would be best in a follow-up. Unless, Richard, do you have anything?
No, I'd love to actually get some more information about that and have a deeper discussion as well, Josh.
Okay. So for the originator of the question, if they could just provide some additional commentary in the Q&A console, we'd be happy to take that one offline and follow up with some additional information. So.
Great. Well, that takes us to the end of our webcast. Thank you, everyone, very much for signing in today. Just to let you know, we do have, this is the 4th webcast in our Building a Digital Government webcast series. This will be available on demand in the next few days, but we do have 3 others: Unlocking the Power of Digital, Cybersecurity in the Public Sector, as well as Procurement Technology in the Public Sector, available at our Living Digital page. That's www.pwc.com/ca/livingdigital. And once again, thank you very much to our speakers, Justin, Josh, and Richard. That was fantastic, and I hope that this left you with lots to think about. The audience, and the speakers. Great. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.